Clara Bennett lived a life most people dreamed of. Her family owned multiple businesses, and their mansion sat on sprawling acres of land. But Clara wasn't like the other rich kids in her school. She didn't care much for designer clothes or fancy parties. Her heart belonged to helping others. Every afternoon, after finishing her studies, Clara would grab a bag of sandwiches, fruits, and bottled water from her kitchen and head downtown to the soup kitchens and shelters. She'd hand out food, chat with the homeless, and sometimes even help clean up after meals. To Clara, it wasn't just about giving. They were people with stories, dreams, and struggles, and she wanted them to feel seen. Her parents didn't understand why she spent so much time volunteering. "You don't need to do this, Clara," her mother often said. "We donate money to charities. That's enough." But Clara shook her head. "Money helps, but it doesn't show kindness. I want to be there, to make them feel like they matter." One chilly winter afternoon, as Clara walked through the streets carrying her usual bag of food, she noticed a boy sitting alone in an alleyway. He looked no older than 12, his clothes worn and dirty, his face pale from hunger. A cardboard sign lay beside him that read, "Hungry. Anything helps." Clara hesitated for a moment. She had seen countless homeless people before, but something about this boy tugged at her heart. His eyes were hollow, yet full of quiet resilience, as if he refused to give up despite everything. She approached him cautiously, holding out a sandwich. "Hi," she said softly. "I thought you might be hungry." The boy stared at her warily, unsure whether to trust her. After a long pause, he took the sandwich and muttered a quick "thank you" before looking away. Clara lingered for a moment, wanting to say more, but decided against it. She could see he wasn't ready to talk. Not yet. Over the next few days, Clara returned to the same alley, bringing food each time. At first, the boy, whose name she later learned was Ethan, remained distant, barely speaking beyond a mumbled "thanks." But slowly he began opening up. He told her about his mom, who had passed away, leaving him alone, about how he dropped out of school because he couldn't afford it anymore, and about how hard it was to survive on the streets. Clara listened without judgment, offering words of encouragement whenever she could. "You're stronger than you think, Ethan," she told him one day. "Things can get better. Don't lose hope." Ethan didn't respond, but his eyes softened. For the first time in months, he felt like someone cared, not because they had to, but because they truly wanted to. Little did Clara know, her simple act of feeding Ethan every day would change both their lives forever. As the weeks turned into months, Clara's visits became a routine for Ethan. Every afternoon, she'd appear with a warm meal and a smile, no matter how cold or rainy it was outside. At first, Ethan had been suspicious. Why would someone like her care about him? But over time, he began to trust her. Her kindness wasn't forced or flashy. It came from a genuine place of wanting to help. One day, as Clara handed him a thermos of hot soup, Ethan finally asked the question that had been on his mind. "Why do you keep coming back?" Clara paused, thinking carefully before answering. "Because everyone deserves to be cared for," she said simply. "And because I believe in you, Ethan. You're smarter and stronger than you think." Her words stuck with him long after she left. For the first time in years, Ethan allowed himself to dream again. Maybe he didn't have to live like this forever. Maybe there was a way out. With Clara's encouragement, Ethan started taking small steps toward change. She brought him books and notebooks, teaching him math and reading during their meetings. Sometimes, they'd sit together under a bridge or near a park bench, working through problems while sharing stories about their lives. "I used to hate school," Ethan admitted one day, "but this feels different. Like maybe I can actually do something with my life." "You can," Clara replied firmly. "Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Ethan began saving the money Clara secretly slipped into his meals, using it to buy second-hand clothes and eventually rent a tiny room in a boarding house. It wasn't much, but it gave him shelter, a place to focus on rebuilding his life. Years passed, and their paths drifted apart. Clara went off to college, studying business to take over her family's company someday. Meanwhile, Ethan worked tirelessly, taking odd jobs during the day and attending night school to earn his diploma. He never forgot Clara's belief in him. It fueled his determination to succeed. By the time Ethan graduated high school, he knew exactly what he wanted to do: become a doctor. He remembered all the times he'd seen sick or injured people on the streets, unable to get proper care. He wanted to be the person who could help them, not just with food or shelter, but with medicine and hope. It wasn't easy. Medical school was grueling, and Ethan often doubted himself. But every time he felt like giving up, he thought about Clara, the rich girl who had fed him sandwiches in an alleyway and told him he could be more. Finally, after years of hard work, Ethan graduated as Dr. Ethan Meyer. On his first day at the hospital, wearing his white coat and stethoscope, he felt a mix of pride and gratitude. He owed so much of his success to Clara's kindness, and now he was ready to pay it forward. Little did he know, fate had one final twist in store. Years had passed since Clara last saw Ethan. Now a successful businesswoman running her family's company, Clara rarely thought about those afternoons in the alleyway. But she never forgot the boy who reminded her why kindness mattered. One evening, Clara began feeling unwell. At first, she dismissed it as exhaustion from her busy schedule. But when the pain grew worse and she collapsed at work, her assistant rushed her to the emergency room. At the hospital, doctors ran tests and discovered something alarming. Clara had a rare condition that required immediate surgery. The procedure was risky, and not every doctor was qualified to perform it. Enter Dr. Ethan Meyer. Assigned to Clara's case, he studied her file late into the night, determined to save her life. He didn't recognize the name at first. It wasn't until he walked into her room the next morning that his breath caught in his throat. "Clara?" he whispered, staring at the woman lying in the hospital bed. Clara blinked up at him, confused. "Do I know you?" Ethan smiled softly, tears welling up in his eyes. "It's me, Ethan. From the alleyway." Clara's eyes widened in shock. "Ethan? Is that really you?" "Yes," he said, nodding. "You saved my life once. Now let me save yours." Overwhelmed, Clara couldn't speak. She remembered the boy she'd fed every day, the one she'd encouraged to believe in himself. And here he was, standing before her as a doctor, ready to repay her kindness. The surgery was long and complicated, but Ethan remained focused, drawing on every ounce of skill and determination he had. When it was over, Clara woke up weak but alive, surrounded by her family, and Ethan. "I don't know how to thank you," Clara said, her voice trembling. "You already did," Ethan replied gently. "Years ago, when you gave me hope, you taught me that even the smallest acts of kindness can change someone's life, including mine." Clara shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "I didn't do anything special. I just wanted to help." "That's exactly why it was special," Ethan said. "You didn't expect anything in return. That's true kindness." After Clara recovered, her life changed in ways she never expected. News of Ethan's story spread quickly. How a homeless boy once fed by a kind stranger had grown up to become the doctor who saved her life. People were inspired by their connection, calling it a perfect circle of kindness. Clara and Ethan reconnected, spending hours talking about their journeys. Ethan shared how Clara's belief in him had kept him going during his darkest days. "You showed me that I mattered," he said. "That's something I'll never forget." Clara smiled, humbled by his words. "I just did what anyone should have done. You're the one who turned your life around. You made all the hard choices." Together, they decided to use their story to inspire others. Clara launched a foundation dedicated to helping homeless children access education and healthcare. She named it the Kindness Ripple, symbolizing how even small acts could create waves of change. Ethan joined her efforts, volunteering at clinics and mentoring students from underserved communities. "If someone hadn't believed in me, I wouldn't be here today," he often told them. "Now it's my turn to believe in you." Their partnership became a powerful force for good. Schools and hospitals partnered with the foundation, offering scholarships, free checkups, and mentorship programs. Former beneficiaries went on to achieve incredible things, becoming teachers, engineers, and doctors themselves. One evening, during a charity gala celebrating the foundation's success, Clara stood beside Ethan as they addressed the crowd. "This isn't just our story," Clara said. "It's proof that kindness comes full circle. What we give to others has a way of returning to us when we least expect it." Ethan nodded, adding, "Never underestimate the impact of a single act of compassion. It might seem small to you, but to someone else it could mean everything." The audience erupted in applause, moved by their message. For Clara and Ethan, this wasn't about recognition. It was about reminding people that everyone has the power to make a difference. As the years passed, Clara and Ethan continued working together, creating opportunities for those in need. Their bond remained strong, rooted in mutual respect and gratitude. They proved that kindness transcends wealth, status, and time. It connects us in ways we can't always predict. And through it all, Clara remembered the boy in the alleyway, the one she'd once fed without expecting anything in return. Now, standing beside Dr. Ethan Meyer, she realized their journey wasn't just about saving lives. It was about showing the world that compassion is the greatest gift we can give each other. Clara and Ethan's story didn't just inspire those around them. It sparked a movement. People from all walks of life began sharing their own experiences of kindness, big and small, on social media using the hashtag #KindnessRipple. The phrase became a global symbol of hope, reminding everyone that even the simplest gestures could create lasting change. Schools started teaching lessons about empathy and compassion, using Clara and Ethan's story as an example. Teachers encouraged students to perform random acts of kindness, no matter how small, and write about how it made them feel. When you help someone, one teacher told her class, you never know where that kindness might lead, or whose life it might save. Hospitals partnered with Clara's foundation to provide free health screenings in underserved neighborhoods. Volunteers handed out food, clothes, and medical supplies, echoing Clara's early days of feeding the homeless. Many of these volunteers were former beneficiaries of the foundation, eager to give back after receiving help themselves. Ethan continued mentoring young people, especially those who had faced hardships like his own. He often took them under his wing, teaching them not just medicine but also resilience and gratitude. "Life won't always be fair," he'd say, "but if you stay kind and work hard, you can overcome anything." One of Ethan's men's, Mia, stood out among the rest. She was a teenager who had grown up in foster care, struggling with self-doubt and fear of failure. But under Ethan's guidance, she blossomed into a confident young woman determined to pursue nursing. When Mia graduated from college years later, she credited Ethan and Clara for believing in her when no one else did. Meanwhile, Clara traveled across the country, speaking at conferences and events about the importance of kindness. Her message was simple yet powerful. We're all connected. What we do for others comes back to us in ways we can't imagine. So be kind, even when it feels like no one is watching. At one event, a man approached Clara after her speech, tears streaming down his face. "Years ago, I was homeless," he said. "Your foundation helped me get back on my feet. Now I run my own business and support my family because of you." Clara hugged him tightly, overwhelmed by emotion. "It wasn't just me," she replied. "It was everyone who believed in you, including yourself." Through their efforts, Clara and Ethan transformed countless lives. Former beneficiaries opened shelters, started nonprofit organizations, and dedicated themselves to helping others. Their ripple effect spread far beyond what either of them could have imagined. Even strangers began paying it forward. A cafe owner in New York started offering free meals to anyone in need, inspired by Clara's story. A bus driver in Chicago gave away gloves and scarves to passengers during winter, saying, "If a rich girl could feed a homeless boy every day, surely I can do something too." The world seemed brighter somehow. A little warmer, a little kinder, because two lives had intertwined through an act of compassion years ago. Years later, Clara and Ethan stood together at the grand opening of a new community center funded by Clara's foundation. The building was alive with energy. Children laughed in the playground, volunteers served meals in the cafeteria, and students studied in classrooms equipped with the latest technology. It was a place where hope thrived, built on the foundation of kindness that had brought Clara and Ethan together so many years ago. As they cut the ribbon, surrounded by cheering crowds, Clara turned to Ethan with a smile. "Look at what we've done," she said softly. "We," Ethan chuckled. "This is all you, Clara. I just followed your lead." "No," Clara replied firmly. "It's us, together. You saved my life, not just physically, but by reminding me why kindness matters. This center is proof that compassion can change the world." Ethan nodded, his eyes glistening with tears. He thought back to the boy he used to be, the one sitting alone in an alleyway, hungry and hopeless. If someone had told him then that he'd one day stand here as a doctor, saving lives and inspiring others, he wouldn't have believed it. But Clara had believed in him, and that made all the difference. That evening, as the sun set over the city, Clara and Ethan sat on a bench outside the center, watching families gather and children play. They didn't speak much, words weren't necessary. Both knew how far they'd come, and how much farther their work would reach. Clara broke the silence first. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we hadn't met?" Ethan smiled. "I try not to think about it. All I know is that your kindness gave me a second chance at life, and now I get to give others the same chance." Their bond had grown stronger over the years, rooted in mutual gratitude and shared purpose. Clara often joked that Ethan was like the little brother she never had, while Ethan teased her about being his guardian angel. But beneath the jokes lay a deep respect. They were partners in making the world a better place. As the stars began to twinkle above, Clara reflected on the journey that had led them here. She thought about the sandwiches she'd handed out in alleys, the late-night study sessions, the surgeries, and the countless lives touched along the way. Back then, she'd simply wanted to ease someone's pain. Now, she saw how deeply connected we all are, and how every act of kindness has the power to transform the world. For Clara and Ethan, this wasn't the end of their story. It was just the beginning. As long as there were people willing to care for others, the ripple effect would continue spreading, touching hearts and changing lives one act of compassion at a time. And so they kept moving forward together, because when we lift each other up, we rise higher than we ever thought possible. If Clara and Ethan's story inspired you, share it with friends and family. Let us know in the comments. How has kindness impacted your life? Your stories inspire us to keep creating tales that matter,